In Privacy Watch, the British Parliament says Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg deliberately misled them about the use of data by the social media company. Parliament then issued a scathing report calling the social media giant digital gangsters. They accused Facebook of knowing about the Cambridge Analytica breach before it was reported to the media.
The report also blamed the social media company for putting democracy at risk. Facebook responded saying that they would be open to meaningful regulation.
Joining us now is investigative reporter Graham Cates. He's been writing about this. So, Graham, welcome. The report calls Facebook digital gangsters. It's pretty tough language.
Yeah, listen, this was scathing. I mean, it's hard to undersay just how much this criticized Facebook. It said that Facebook was deliberately misleading, in fact, just kind of sending people who wouldn't be able to answer the questions that they have on purpose, so that over the course of an 18-month investigation, these parliamentarians couldn't get the answers they needed.
So is this report the result of that sort of international body, or was this primarily a British UK body that was kind of looking into it?
This is just British Parliament.
Okay.
The head of this committee was one of the two people who came up with the international committee, because there were so many parliamentarians from around the world that were saying, we have these same problems with Facebook, we have these same problems with elections, and we're hoping to join forces. And they actually really uncovered some really good stuff. They got sealed documents from the U.S. That we probably never would have seen, that found, for instance, Facebook has long said that they found out about that Cambridge Analytica breach from the media. But we saw, they said that they saw emails that say Facebook knew about it before that.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, that's something that's been repeated over and over again, right?
Yeah.
Where we've seen that they've come on the record with one position, and then emails, information, reports come out that suggest otherwise. And it doesn't seem as if, for a lot of people, that they're willing to address the fundamental issues with Facebook, with the problems that are surfacing. What does Parliament say Facebook should do to address them?
Parliament wants to kind of lead the way for the world on a new set of regulations for social media companies. They call for a compulsory code of ethics, that they would have a regulator that could kind of make sure that companies, the major ones, are following these ethical standards. They want to modernize their own electoral laws, which they say are kind of made for pre-advertising on Facebook and other social media. And they want legislation to require social medias to block hateful content.
So how does this compare to how Congress and regulators here in this country are treating Facebook?
I think they're probably a little bit ahead at this point.
Yeah.
So Congress and the Senate have had their investigations, but we haven't had a report like this where they say, you know, Facebook and maybe some of the other social media companies just aren't doing what they keep saying that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've talked about this in the past. This is leading towards the path of regulation. At some point, not only Parliament, but the United States Congress is going to say, you know what? We don't want to stifle for the free market. This is a country that is, you know, full of free market individuals, but you're doing things that are hurting the people of this country and around the world. And so we're going to regulate you. And if that's what they want, they should just keep going down this path. In other words, Zuckerberg.
Yeah. You know, it's really interesting. In this report, they spoke to a former FTC investigator who had worked on the Facebook case. And he said, outwardly, Facebook has said, we're okay with regulations, but he says inwardly they have been lobbying against that.
Yeah, of course. Because it's when the government, that's the problem here, is when the government gets involved in this kind of stuff, people have issues with that. And you don't usually want to see the government involved in private businesses, but if they are hurting people, not just here in this country, around the world, and that's what Parliament finds and that's what the Congress finds, and they will be forced to regulate them, people won't stand for it. So that's the dilemma they face.
Isn't it feeling rather repetitive? I feel like
really
we've done a story like this. We've talked about this before, where lawmakers are finger wagging. They're saying, what, you shouldn't have done this. And then Facebook says, or other social media networks say, oh, we're so sorry, we're so sorry. You know, if you want to regulate us, that's okay. And then we do another story again.
Right.
And that's what actually, so one of the things that's interesting about this is the way it works with Parliament is now Theresa May's government has to have some sort of formal response for them. So it could be that they are on the path to some sort of new regulation, but they have to wait now and find out what happens.
And what we have been seeing is, because Europe has been way ahead when it comes to data protection, privacy, and these are global companies, that if they have to comply with any sort of regulation in Europe, we get some sort of residual benefit on this side of the pond because, you know, the policies are sort of become international policies.
And we also get to kind of treat it like an experiment, see how it works.
To see how it works.
It's so true.
Graham Cates, thank you so much. You've been doing a lot of reporting.